Welcome to this walkthrough guide on how to configure page margins in Microsoft Word. Have you ever felt frustrated when your carefully formatted text spills off the page? Or maybe you've spent ages fiddling with the ruler in Word, only to end up with uneven or unprofessional looking margins. It can be a real headache. But those struggles end today. In this tutorial, I'll show you the best way to adjust your page margins, ensuring your documents are perfectly formatted every single time. So, let's get started. Let's dive straight into the first and often quickest way to adjust your margins, using Word's handy preset margin options. These are fantastic for applying common margin sizes with just a single click, saving you time and ensuring a consistent look for standard documents. First things first, we need to locate the margin controls. Look up at the Word ribbon at the very top of your screen. You'll see a series of tabs like File, Home, Insert, and so on. We're heading to the Layout tab. Go ahead and click on that now. Once you're in the Layout tab, you'll notice different groups of tools. We're interested in the Page Setup group, which is usually located on the far left of this tab. Within this group, you'll see several options, and the one we want right now is Margins. Click on the Margins drop-down menu. Now you can see a list of predefined margin options. These are set up by Word for common document types and layouts. Take a look at the options like Normal, which is often the default, Narrow, which gives you more space for your content, Moderate, Wide for a more spacious feel, and even options for specific purposes such as Mirrored or Office 2003 default. Word provides an image preview of how that margin setting will affect your page layout. This allows you to quickly see which preset suits your needs before you even commit to it. And once you find the margin preset that you want to use, simply click on it. For example, if you're working on a document with a lot of text and you want to fit more onto each page, you might choose the Narrow option. Go ahead and click on Narrow now, and you'll see how the text reflows to utilize more of the page width. Let's consider a couple of real-world scenarios to illustrate this. Imagine you're drafting a short internal memo to your colleagues. For this, the normal margins, which provide a balanced amount of white space, would likely be perfectly adequate and professional looking. But let's say you're working on a document that includes several large tables or images that require more horizontal space. In this case, the narrow margin would be an excellent choice as it maximizes the usable width of the page. Now, while the preset margin options are incredibly convenient for many common situations, there will be times when you need more precise control over your page boundaries. This is where creating custom margins comes into play, allowing you to specify the exact measurements for the top, bottom, left, and right edges of your document. To access the custom margins, we once again want to start by going to the Layout tab and clicking on the Margins drop-down menu. But this time, instead of selecting a preset, we're going to scroll all the way down to the very bottom and select Custom Margins. This will open the Page Setup dialog box. This is the central hub for controlling various aspects of your page layout. Make sure you're on the Margins tab, which should be the default tab that opens. Here you'll clearly see labels for fields such as top, bottom, left, and right margins. These values represent the distance between the edge of the paper and the start of your text or other content. In these fields, you can directly type in the exact measurements that you need for each margin. And Word is quite flexible here. You can use various units of measurement depending on your preference. For example, if you're working in Australia like I am, you might prefer to use centimeters. You simply type in the numerical value followed by cm. If you're more comfortable with inches though, you can use that instead. Word will usually understand common measurement abbreviations. Now, while you're in this dialog box, also take a look at the Orientation section. This allows you to switch between Portrait, which is your standard vertical page, and Landscape, which is a horizontal layout. You can adjust this here at the same time as your margins if needed. Now pay attention to the Apply To drop-down menu located at the bottom of the Margins tab. This is important because it determines which part of your document these margin settings will be applied to. The default option is usually Whole Document, meaning the margins you set here will affect every page from the beginning to the end. However, as we'll see later, you can also choose to apply these settings to this section or even selected text. For now though, we'll leave it as Whole Document. Once you've entered your desired margin values and confirmed that the Apply To setting is correct, simply click the OK button at the bottom of the dialog box. Your document will then update to reflect your custom margin settings. Let's consider a practical example. Imagine your company has a strict set of branding guidelines that specify precise margin measurements for all official documents. You can easily input these exact values into the Custom Margins dialog box to ensure that all of your reports, letters, and other official documents adhere to these guidelines, maintaining a consistent and professional brand image. Another common scenario where custom margins are invaluable is when you're formatting a document for a specific type of binding, such as a spiral binding or a perfect binding. By using custom margins, you can precisely adjust the left or right margin, or the inside margin if you're using mirror margins, to accommodate the binding requirements. If you're planning to print your document on both sides of the paper and then bind it together, perhaps to create a booklet or a report, you'll definitely want to take advantage of mirror margins. This clever feature automatically adjusts the left and right margins on alternating pages. The idea is to create a consistent inner and outer margin when the pages are folded or bound, resulting in a much more professional and reader-friendly document. To set up custom mirror margins, once again head to the Layout tab, click on the Margins drop-down menu and select Custom Margins. In the Page Setup dialog box under the Margins tab, you'll notice a section here labeled Pages. Use this drop-down to select Mirror Margins, and you'll observe that the labels for left and right have now changed to inside and outside. The inside margin refers to the margin that will be closest to the spine of your bound document, the area where the pages will be joined, and the outside margin naturally is the margin on the outer edge of the page. Now you'll just enter your desired measurements for your inside and outside margins. Typically, you'll want to set these to the same value to achieve a balanced look. For instance, you might enter 2.5 centimeters for both the inside and outside margins. Once you've entered your measurements, simply click OK to apply the changes. Now, if you were to print your document double-sided, you would see that the left margin on odd-numbered pages and the right margin on even-numbered pages will correspond to your inside margin setting, while the right margin on odd pages and the left margin on even pages will correspond to your outside margin. This ensures that when the pages are bound, the text area is consistently positioned relative to the binding and the outer edge. A classic example of when to use mirror margins is when you're writing a report, a book, a thesis, or any other substantial document that will be printed on both sides and professionally bound. Using mirror margins ensures that the reader has a comfortable reading experience without the text being crammed too close to the inner edge of the page. Now, often when you're preparing a document for physical binding, you'll also need to add extra space along the inner margin to accommodate the binding mechanism itself. This additional space is called a gutter margin. It prevents the binding from obscuring your text and ensures that all of your content remains easily readable after the document is bound. To add a gutter margin to your document, look in the Page Setup dialog box on the Margins tab and you'll find the gutter option located right there. In the gutter field, simply enter the amount of extra space that you want to add to the inside margin. This measurement will be added in addition to your regular inside margin setting. For example, you might want to add a gutter of 0.5 centimeter or perhaps 1 centimeter, depending on the type of binding you'll be using. Now, beside the gutter field, you'll see the gutter position drop-down menu. Here, you can choose whether the gutter should be positioned on the left or at the top of the page. For most common binding methods, such as spiral binding or cone binding, you'll typically select left. The top option is primarily used for documents that are bound along the top edge, like a notepad or a calendar. It's important to note that if you've selected mirror margins, which we have here, the gutter will automatically be applied to the inside margin. You don't need to specify a separate left or top gutter in that case. Now, once you've entered your desired gutter width and selected the appropriate gutter position, click OK to apply the changes to your document. You'll now see that extra space has been added to the left or top, depending on your selection, margin. Now, for more advanced document formatting, you might encounter situations where you need to apply different margin settings to specific parts or sections of your document. This is particularly useful when you want to create a distinct look for a title page, include appendices with different layouts, or even insert pages with a landscape orientation within a predominantly portrait document. To achieve this, we need to work with section breaks. The first crucial step is to insert section breaks into your document to divide it into distinct sections where you want to apply the different formatting. To do this, navigate to the Layout tab once again, and this time click on the Breaks drop-down menu. You'll see a variety of break options here. For the purpose of adjusting margins, the two most commonly used section breaks are Next Page and Continuous. If you choose Next Page, Word will insert a section break and start the new section on the following page. This is ideal for separating a title page or a new chapter. If you select Continuous, Word will insert a section break right where your cursor is, allowing the new section to start on the same page. This is ideal for formatting elements like a landscape-oriented table within a portrait-oriented page. Once you have inserted the necessary section breaks to define the parts of your document that need different margins, you can then proceed to adjust the margins for each section individually. To do this, place your cursor within the specific section that you want to modify. Then, go to the Layout tab, click on Margins and select Custom Margins. In the Page Setup dialog box on the Margins tab, the key step here is to look at the Apply To drop-down menu at the bottom. This time, instead of leaving it on whole document, you need to select this section. This tells Word that the margin adjustments you're about to make should only be applied to the current section where your cursor is located. Now go ahead and enter the desired margin values for the top, bottom, left, and right margins, just as you would when creating custom margins for the whole document. Once you've entered your values, click OK. And you'll see that the margin changes are only applied to the section where your cursor was positioned, while the other sections of your document remain unaffected. Let's illustrate this with an example. A common scenario is when you have a large table that looks much better in landscape orientation. You could insert a continuous section break just before the table and another continuous section break immediately after the table. Then, with your cursor positioned within the section containing the table, you would go to the Page Setup dialog box, change the orientation to landscape, and you could also adjust the left and right margins specifically for this section to optimize the layout of the table. Again, just ensure that this section is selected in the Apply To dropdown. And there you have it. We've covered the essential methods for correctly adjusting your margins in Microsoft Word, from using quick presets to creating precise custom layouts and even formatting specific sections. Remember, mastering these techniques will not only make your documents look more professional, but also give you greater control over how your content is presented. Don't be afraid to try out custom options and see how they can enhance your document design. Happy formatting, and I'll catch you in my next video. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, be sure to check out the channel. And if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.